I want to say to the faculty, staff, partners, friends, because this is Zoom and you're at home, your pets at home, your house plants, everyone who's gathered, but especially to the VIU Masters of Community Planning graduating class this year. Thank you for including me in your special moment. Congratulations. So I'm coming to you from East Van, which is unceded territory of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. It's a real treat. It's a real treat to talk to you today, and especially Kira, to hear the vibes in your words. You've all done something incredible. I mean, not only have you graduated from a program that's giving you the tools to make a better world, but you did so under the wicked circumstances of the coronavirus pandemic. You completed your last year almost completely online, from what I've heard. You know, I know this was at times painful. At times it was lonely, but you rose to the challenge, finding new ways to connect with each other and with your community. So I congratulate you for your tenacity. Now, I hear that many of you are already working in the planning field, so bravo, you don't need my advice on how to get a job, so I'm not going to talk about that. Instead, I want to talk to you about what I think is your greatest challenge. And it's no small thing, by the way. And it's not to make prettier cities, it's not to enable starchitects or build monuments, it's not actually to plan or build anything for its own sake, no, not even bike lanes. I think your job is to help us overcome the greatest crisis of our time. And Kira mentioned a list of crises, and I think at the top of them is the crisis of social disconnection. It's your job to help us get over this crisis, help us rebuild the trust that has been broken. It's so many levels of our society. Help us reconnect with each other. Everything you do must contribute to that goal. Now, if I've freaked you out, please don't be scared. I think the challenge is daunting, but you have the superpowers to take it on. Now, to explain what I mean about this crisis of trust and the cruciality of social connections, I want to tell you a story. It's about rich people feeling sad. Now, I'm just going to do a little Zoom hack here to show you a couple of pictures as I speak. There we go. You should see Dubai behind me. Now, the United Arab Emirates is one of the richest countries in the world. They've been building the most eye-popping architecture. They have really amazing water slides. I can vouch for that. They built an island suburb in the shape of a giant palm tree. Pretty cool. The UAE government also runs a national housing program. Not like ours, by the way, even when we had a proper housing program. In it, every adult Emirati gets a villa. So if you happen to be part of the 20% of the population that is an Emirati citizen, and a man, of course, it's a very generous program. Now, aside from the glaring gender equity issues here, you'd think that this program would make its recipients' lives happier. I mean, who doesn't want a mansion, right? Well, it doesn't. The program just doesn't always make people happier. Because for the most part, when men and their families get their villa, they have to move from their messy, walkable, connected neighborhoods, and they end up way out in the desert sprawl in these desolate mansion zones. Here, let me click on a picture here. Just desolate mansion zones where you can't walk to anything. I mean, look at this place. I'll get out of the way. Help, help, help. You can't walk to anything. Elders are stuck at home. There's some more mansions for you. Kids need to be driven to school. Parents are stuck in traffic. There's nobody walking. There's nobody anywhere. It's incredibly isolating. And people are lonely out here. And it's ironic, isn't it, that the richest people in the world have designed a place that actually hurts them. So Sheikh Mohammed, the country's leader, is really into happiness. Like, he wants the Emirates to win on the global happiness sweepstakes, essentially. So the government invited my team, I mean, we are called Happy City, to help make this national housing program happier. Now, we quickly realized that the main reason Emiratis can't have healthy, happy neighborhoods is simple. It's segregation. The new neighborhoods in this housing program, they exclude non-citizens. Yeah, it's another problem for equity. We realized very quickly that the issue in the Emirates, the issue with their national housing program, is segregation. Non-citizens are not allowed to live in these new communities. They don't build for them. Now, aside from the obvious equity issues, this is a problem for Emiratis as well, because it's the non-citizens who are willing to live in apartments above shops and services. They're willing to live in town centers, and Emiratis are not. So you can't have a walkable community, as you've been learning, if you don't let more people live closer together. So to me, the interesting thing is what's behind this segregation? I think partly it's fear. Emiratis are scared of many foreigners. They're also worried about losing their culture. So we can condemn them, or we can find ways to help them change. So our first step was to get Emiratis and foreigners together to share their values. So people came together in visioning sessions to talk about what kind of community they wanted, what kind of life did they want. And what was remarkable is that the values they shared were strikingly similar. And I remember when at one point, a Syrian office worker stood up and addressed the elephant in the room. He said, hey, would you Emiratis mind so much if my family and I lived on your street or in your neighborhood? It's a gentle question. He seemed scared, and the Emiratis looked at each other and they looked at their colleague and their friend and they said, yeah, we think that would be okay. Well, in fact, this man had planted a seed to break down the segregation occurring in those neighborhoods. The new draft national guidelines for the national housing program, they allow for mixed income, mixed nationality communities with village hearts where everybody can walk, everybody can mingle. This is good for foreigners. It's also good for the Emiratis. Now, of course, none of this yet applies to the mostly South Asian laborers who work in brutal conditions in the country, and that work continues along with gender equity work in that country. But I share that tidbit because it illustrates, I'm going to come back to my office room here, because it illustrates the great challenge of our century. We've entered a time of social disconnection. The world is experiencing a trust drought. People, Americans especially, but also Poles and Brazilians and many people here in Canada are losing trust in neighbors and institutions and people who are different than themselves. At the same time, Canadians are lonelier than ever. It's worst for people in their 20s, newcomers, and the elderly. So this loss of connection with other people it's corroding happiness, but it's also shortening lives. The collective cost may be even more devastating. Poverty, inequity, climate change, environmental collapse. Without mutual trust, our societies lose the ability to solve the great challenges of our age. So that's where I come back to you, graduates. As community planners, you will be mediating people's social lives and the social lives of your communities through the places you help design, manage, and run. So there's big work to do. Some of your predecessors have spent decades building communities that separate us from one another. We still have zoning rules that reflect century-old racist ideas. We still ban poor people in most neighborhoods by banning multifamily apartments. Remember that before you judge the Emiratis. And we've been building cities that weaken family and friend relationships by forcing people to drive long distances just to meet their needs. On Vancouver Island, we still build systems that exclude the true owners of that land from access, social access, economic access. In my home valley, members of the Cowichan tribes, for example, they're the most likely people to walk or bike into Duncan, and they have no safe route into town. Many still have to rely on a rail bridge to get to town. And it's not just about infrastructure. Your predecessors, I'm talking about myself and the planners who came before you, we've entrenched systems that are perfect at excluding people. We know that the people most able to show up at public hearings, for example, they're older, whiter, richer, more likely to be property owners than the general population. So no wonder renters and racialized groups and working people and young people have lost faith in government. This is your challenge. This is your challenge. You're community planners now, and you are far ahead in your thinking than your predecessors. So please use what you've learned to design communities that bring people together instead of pushing us apart. Give people more opportunities to have positive moments with people who are different than themselves. Break down people's fear of the other. Change the rules that privilege the wealthiest people in your communities and punish the poorest. Challenge the old systems of engagement. Make sure that the people who've been excluded from city decisions are not just included, but co-leading the creation process. No, of course, you're up against centuries of bad habits and bad rules. We've been improving through the years, but we're not there yet. The best practices you learned in school are not always practiced beyond school. You're going to have to push hard. And we in the planning field, in the city building field, we need you. I want to remind you, though, as you push hard, that being right, knowing that you're right, is not always, I guess it's not the only thing you need for your success. So being right is not the only secret to success. Flaming someone on Twitter or calling them out at a meeting, that's not going to bring the change you want. If you want to build communities of trust, you've got to start by winning the trust and the respect of the people you may disagree with. And how do you do that? You do that by listening to them. You do it by demonstrating through your words and your actions that you want a community that works not just for some, but for everyone. Now, one more thing. I said your master's in community planning degree has given you superpowers. It has. But the burden of change, it's not on you alone. Remember Iron Man? So obnoxious, that guy. But for all his smarts, all his powers, he was never truly successful until he joined Black Widow and all the rest of the Avengers to work together to smash evil. Too much of a stretch? Well, watch the movies and get back to me. My point is, the path to success is never a solo path. Find allies who are different than you. Build your own network of change superheroes. Listen to each other, learn from each other, but most of all, take care of each other. This is hard work. Take care of each other. Take care of each other so you can take care of your dreams. I salute you all, and I cannot wait to see the changes you bring about in your communities. Thank you.